let's officially, finally start our workshop. Welcome you to our event. And also, this is going to bring to conclusion our program that we've been working on for the last 3 months plus. This is something that also is designated to give you hands-on experience. Obviously, that's something that is hard to come by, seeing each other by Skype. But that's also something that will become more and more important as we progress along the path of Qi Dao. Working with people hands-on becomes more and more interesting. Not necessarily absolutely required, so I still can work with advanced students and apprentices long distance. But it's interesting because there are certain practices, for example, which hands cannot do over the internet, at least not yet. So what we'll do is we'll begin with some practice working on developing the skills in testing. As you may recall, I mentioned that we test everything, and we want to learn how to test very effectively without too much bias, so that it's going to be a trustworthy test. Who wants a non-trustworthy or untrustworthy, trustworthy test? How do we test it? Well, are you guys familiar with applied kinesiology or muscle testing? A little bit. Okay, great. So we're not going to do that. But you're familiar with it.
Get everything you learned.
Yeah. And they push, for example, the arm or do some other things, isolating the muscle. And as the muscle proves to be stronger, it's actually more relaxed. Interestingly, if it is tense, it's weak. Blows a lot of people's minds because they confuse tension for strength. But once we really get it, that tense muscle is not a functional muscle, because the functioning of the muscle consists of the ability to contract and relax. If it's not capable of contracting and relaxing, it's dysfunctional. Well, that's exactly what is going on with the muscle that is holding tension. It can contract because there is very little room for contraction left, and it can relax. If it could, it would have done a long time ago. Therefore, it's less functional than optimal. And instead of testing an isolated muscle, we test the whole organism. Because an isolated muscle will eventually get tired and start giving you erroneous results because of fatigue. And we also want to make sure that we don't press willy-nilly, just with whatever level of pressure we choose to push at this particular moment. There's often a question, is the person pressing at the same rate or at the same level of pressure each time? And the answer is probably not, because it's really hard to perfectly calibrate your pressure. But what we can do is we can use gravity. So then we don't just push with force. We use gravity to do all the work. So let's see how we can actually practice that. For example, okay, Doug, would you do me a favor and put your hand on my stomach? Very nice. Now, would you also put the left foot forward? Perfect. So, as you are familiar with transverse motion, like you walk down the street, you walk like this: left foot, right hand, right foot, left hand. Not like this, right? So, one foot, opposite hand. And then you just need to lift this foot off the floor without shifting the weight back. That's it. Very nice. Let's do it again. Yeah, you can literally lean with your weight on your hand. There you go. Now that's what we're looking for. Let's do it again. Lean with your weight on your hand. Yes. Perfect. Let's do it again. Very nice. Now, I can, of course, also use this test as the form of a forward push. In an intermediate program, we do a forward push with a hand. We could do this test with an elbow. It's just some people complain that being pushed with the elbow is not particularly pleasant, so we use the hand. But the idea is that when you push like this, you apply consistent pressure. Now, Eric, would you do me a favor and do the same thing? One foot forward, the other hand on my stomach. Yeah, there you go. Very good.
That is not going to do anything.
Don't push yourself away from me. That's it. Perfect. Once again. Very nice. That's a very consistent pressure. Excellent. Now, what I'm going to invite you to do is to actually take turns. One person does it a few times, like say 5 or 6 times. Then trade roles. The other person does it 5 or 6 times. On the receiving end, you can just stand like I was standing and being pushed over. Or you can actually experiment with alignments. Yes. So that's going to be our next experiment. Who is going to be the pusher first?
You can be the pusher.
All right.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is what it feels like when you're standing this way. Now, would you jump and land softly, please? Great. Now let's do it again. Very nice. So notice what happens to your hands. Like if your palm is the front of the hand, and the back of the hand is what we call the back of the hand, then you basically ended up wearing your arms backwards.
Yeah.
One more so than the other.
This one's
Right, interesting, isn't it? I worked on the shoulder last night, and it affected the ability of the arm to open up. It's a pretty consistent thing, so maybe we'll need to do something with your left shoulder. But for now, let's just imagine that you're holding 2 cups of tea in your hands. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, let's see if you can do the same test. And off you went. So, and it may also be a difference in weight category, but the idea is you test and calibrate. Nice. Now go ahead and slowly turn your palms backwards. Notice any difference?
I've got no center.
Oh, let's do it again. Did you jump and land something? Very nice. And slowly turn your, slowly. Notice how there is a certain point of no return.
Almost, energy goes like this.
Right. Interesting, isn't it?
It's back there.
Yeah. You want to experience that?
Yeah.
We'll do take a natural stance. Beautiful. So here, you're pretty stable. Very nice. Now, if your arms are that way, not so much. If you take a natural stance again and slowly start turning your palms, notice how there's a certain point of no return. It's so interesting that it gives you an ability to actually really calibrate. Strength, less strength, more, even less strength, no strength. Oh, I'm falling. Now, that basically gives you also an ability to regain strength very quickly. Yeah. So that's how we learn to relax under pressure. One of the ways. We learn how to relax under pressure not by tensing up, because it makes us weaker, but by aligning ourselves more. What do I mean by it makes us weaker if we tense up? Well, let's test. So for example, if you can face me and you can jump and land softly for a moment. And go ahead and tense up your stomach. Very nice. And feel how that feels. Remember the feeling? Now go ahead and release the tension. And when I'm pushing, just keep it soft.
It absorbs.
Interesting, isn't it? Would you like to experience that?
I think so. Tense first?
Sure, go ahead and tense it. I just felt it. Yeah. Now, go ahead and make it as soft as water. Yeah, like a balloon filled with water. If you push the balloon filled with water, it just redistributes pressure in all the possible directions. Because water doesn't compress, it just simply pushes other parts of the balloon elsewhere. Well, that's exactly what happens with the body, because the body mostly made of water. If we remember how to be like water, then we become stronger, because like that balloon, we don't get pushed over easily. it applies not only to the stomach, it applies to other parts of the body. For example, if you push me from behind, if I tense up, it's relatively easy to push me over. If you do it again, I relax, and I'm not going anywhere.
It just looks like energetically you're just...
I redirect it into the ground.
Yeah.
I become grounded. Now, grounded is the principle that we also study. How to become grounded. Do you remember?
Weight.
Yes. And
Weight in the center of the feet.
thank you. Yes, distributing weight onto the centers of your feet. So, for example,
That's total opposite of energy.
isn't it interesting? Well, pretty much everything we do is different from what other people do. If you want to get the same results as others get, you do the same thing other people do. If you want to get better results, you got to do something different.
You don't know that the other style is little toe grips the floor and big toe grips the floor and you press the heel into the floor. I think it's for a later on pattern where you do some equal thing and pick up a branch. But I think that's the beginning of it. I've heard that. What it does is cramp your foot.
It cramps your foot and energetically blocks you from the ground. Because you cannot be grounded when you have tension in your lower legs and your feet. And it makes you less stable.
I've always been just relax as much as possible.
Relaxing is great. And also paying attention to distribution of weight is really cool. So for example, if you just check with the distribution of weight, where would you say is more weight? On the toes or heels, inner or outer edges of the feet?
Right now,
Yes.
for me, I feel a little bit more weight in my heels.
Okay. So let's
It's
test how that
around,
works.
but that's where I feel it the most.
Right. Let's test how that works. Interesting. Okay, let's remember that. How about distributing more weight on the toes? Maybe that's going to make you more stable. A little bit more stable. Okay, how about on the outer edges of the feet? Yeah. How about on the inner edges of the feet? Not so much. How about the very centers of the feet? Both. Huh.
Right?
It's not going anywhere. And as I apply pressure, you just continue distributing weight on the centers. Not anywhere else, just on the centers. Yeah, that's it. That's what we call being grounded. Would you like to experience that?
Yeah, that's good.
It's a very, very cool
Do
feeling.
you feel your weight go into the feet when you relax? Okay, so you're doing both.
If you assess distribution of weight on your feet now, Eric, where would you say there's more weight? Toes, heels?
Inside.
Inside, okay. Let's see how that works for you. It works like this. How about maybe outside? Outside? Alright, and it works like that. How about toes?
You figured the toes would be really good, you know?
How about the heels?
Yeah.
Not so much. How about the centers of both feet? Yeah, keep it on the centers. Keep it on the centers. Yes, keep it on the centers. That's what we're talking about. Just getting the weight distributed on the centers makes you supremely grounded.
And it's through the whole center, right?
Through the center of the foot. Yes, if you divide the length of the foot in half and the width of the foot in half, the intersection of those two lines would be the center of the foot.
Okay, so you do both, okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not exactly the same where most teachers would tell you to put the weight on.
The ball of foot.
They often tell you to put a weight on the ball of the foot.
Yeah.
What do we do in Qi Dao? We test. How's it working for you?
Is that the kidney 1 point?
So, if you're interested in specific locations of points, I would say kidney 1 is closer to the ball of the foot. Kidney 2 is in the very center, the geometrical center of the foot. So we're talking about kidney too, actually.
Yeah, I never looked up the point, but I hadn't thought about the center of the weight because I was trying to keep it in the center, like the whole foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess that's close.
It's definitely better than nothing, but we
Yeah.
want to get the very center.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't thought about the cross or
So,
the mid.
yeah, midsection, absolutely. And that intersection of
Like
two
a cross
lines that
here.
divide the foot in half
Yeah.
gives you the point in the foot that may not even touch the ground if your arches are high. And that's okay. Just like the center of the palm, often it is so concave that you will not even touch the surface if you're pushing the flat surface. That's okay. We can still project energy through it. You can visualize a suction cup. The very center of the suction cup that also has concave shape may not even touch the surface that you make it stick to. But that's where you need to apply pressure in order to make it stick, right? If you apply pressure on one side of the suction cup or another side, it's not going to work. Well, so imagine that you can visualize your feet being like suction cups. And you connect to the ground with each and every step. That's what I call soulful step. When you land on the ground and you immediately become as grounded as you can be. I mean, of course, there's going to be some deviation because you also have momentum, or you may be doing something in the arms or other limbs, but at least you're going to be more grounded than most people. That groundedness can translate into whatever you do when you are performing the soulful steps. And sometimes we consciously deviate from soulful steps because we need something else. So we also have other techniques that we use our feet, for example, to pivot on the heel when we perform natural turn. Obviously, we pivot on the heel, we lift the toes and the ball of the foot up in air for a split second. But we don't hang on the heel for any extended time. We bring the toes down, we become grounded again. For example, if you're making, let's say, a front kick or roundhouse kick, you pivot on the ball of the foot. And that's okay. You're doing something that also takes just a split second, and then immediately become grounded again. And we also have the technique for bouncing up the floor. And obviously, you're not landing with the entire sole of the foot. The heel doesn't even touch the ground. It's the ball of the foot that touches the ground and bounces. But that's definitely one of those techniques that add spring to your step. So we learn how to develop the ability to use our legs in a variety of ways that give us a variety of abilities. Now, you can imagine, for example, a tall building, let's say a skyscraper. And imagine that the center mass of that tall building doesn't quite land at the center of its footprint. How stable will that building be? Not very stable, right? So even when you're standing on one foot, you can distribute the weight onto the center of that foot. And just like a tall building, you can actually have maximum stability and balance. If your center of mass falls on top of the center of the standing foot. Simple and elegant understanding of balance and stability that actually gives you tremendous ability to be balanced, not only in your physical body, but also emotionally, energetically. Some people even told me they experience greater financial balance because they are no longer wobbling, they're no longer falling over all the time. Why? Well, I guess it's like bank account. You need to balance bank account in order to have some kind of financial balance, right? What we're doing is we're developing the ability to basically first develop the embodied skills, and then we translate them into other areas of life, wherever we can. And if we do that on a consistent basis, it improves the quality of life in general. Who wouldn't want that? Right. Let's see how we can play with another test. And this test is going to be dedicated to learning how the push is done with maximum efficiency. So, Doug, would you do me a favor and push me into my stomach again?
Only because you ask.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's right. One foot, the other hand. So left foot, right hand. Everything looks good. But if you check your navel, where is navel pointing?
My navel?
No, mine, yours.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was over here a little bit.
Okay, so what would it take? Well, let's just test. Let's just test first. What it feels like if your navel is slightly this way. Yeah, just go ahead and push. Okay, let's try it again. Maybe that's going to work better. Okay, and just to humor me, would you position your foot and your center line so that the hand would be on your center line?
Just when you think it is. It's not.
Yeah, okay. And now go ahead and just lift this foot and see what's going to happen. Feel the difference?
Big difference. But it also adjusts your head when you actually apply it.
I hope you don't mind your head.
I don't mind. I don't mind my head being adjusted because it can use some. I totally know that. But you know, when you told me, I thought, oh, this alignment. And I went, oh, this one. You know, so yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Let's try the other hand. Maybe this one was a fluke.
Yeah, well, we know that.
Okay, so here you are. Hand and center line. Beautiful. Very nice.
You're not really pushing any harder, but there's more energy there.
That's exactly the point. Now, would you do me a favor and push with the left hand one more time? Yeah, just like this. But now, just to humor me, I'm going to step slightly away from your center line. And I'll go ahead and push.
You can tell now.
Yeah, can you tell?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty feeble. And in fact, if it was a competition or something, I'd probably hurt my wrist.
It's fascinating that virtually every martial arts style teaches to strike either like this or sometimes like this. Yeah. Would you do it again? Yeah, very nice. So the hand is here, but the center line is over there. Now, if you stand here and resist my push, this is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Now, if you do the exact same punch, but the hand is on the center line. See how the hand and center line are more in alignment?
Wow.
Totally different feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not pushing any lighter, am I?
No.
Try that again. Boom. Yeah. You don't have to crank your neck sideways. So, yeah, just keep the head straight on the shoulders. Thank you. Yeah. And that's powerful. Would you do the same move again? But now, let's see if it's just 2 centimeters off center line.
You're gonna like this.
Would you like to do it? Sure. Okay, let's
Well, I don't really know my punches, so.
Well, let's see what you can
That's
do. Yeah, very nice. So, let's say just do it with the open hand. Like you're gonna push. I'm gonna push you into your hand. And we're standing here and we're pushing like this. And you're not going anywhere. Let's see if something is gonna happen if your hand is just a tiny bit off. Yeah. Or if it's a tiny bit off this way. Would you do it again? Sure. Now, if it's on the center line but higher, still down here, but on the center line, still strong and effortless. Very nice. Just a tiny bit off. Again. So
That's great.
this gives you an instant idea that something works better than something else. Imagine that you are driving a tight screw into a wall. Would you emulate the motion? Okay, yes, it's going to go this way, right?
Yeah.
Make that movement into my hand and try to push me over. Not happening, right? Because the hand is here and the center line is over there. Now so you cannot bring the screw to the center line. You have to orient yourself. That's the principle of orientation. Now go ahead and do that. That's what we're talking about. What do? We bring our center line to the target. Rather than dragging the target, okay, you're not standing at the right place. You need to stand over here because this is where my center line is pointing.
Okay. No, I think this is better for me.
By the way, it also may give you an idea how to deal with some people who may be projecting energy at you, not necessarily even physically, but emotionally, verbally, or otherwise.
I know. I totally get that. You must as an educator.
Yeah, you just simply move slightly away from the center line. And suddenly you're no longer in the line of fire. Because the power of the person's energy projection doesn't even go where the nose is pointing, it's where the navel is pointing, or lower dantian, if you will. If they're focusing on you, squaring off with you, you are in harm's way, so to speak. So you can literally step out of harm's way just a few feet away and immediately become less effective. On the other hand, if you want a person's attention, if you want to deliver the message and actually make sure that they get it, then where would you need to be?
On their center line.
On their center line, exactly. Plus, if you also square off with them so you are projecting your energy, then you'll be able to have massive download of information in the shortest amount of time. So in other words, when we communicate, we want to be aware of alignments with other people's energies. And that literally transforms the quality of our communications. Does it make sense? It's pretty interesting. It's a pretty universally useful tool, whether you are an educator or a business person, or you're just in a relationship. If a person you're in a relationship with, for example, starts talking at you and projecting energy, and you feel like being bombarded, what do? You simply reposition yourself. Get out of harm's way, suddenly you're no longer being bombarded so much. And if you move further away, that becomes even less likely to be the subject of their energy projection. So basically you become less and less subjected to their bombardment, while at the same time you can still maintain your energy alignment with them, orienting your center line towards them. Now that means you can actually create a balance of power, so to speak. Same thing works in martial arts. You get out of harm's way when somebody is punching. When I teach martial arts, I always say, don't block. No blocks are included in any of our trainings. Because instead of blocking, it's so much more efficient to move out of harm's way. Literally just maneuvering so that when a punch is coming, you are not there. Why stand there and just try to protect yourself from the onslaught of punches coming at you? Right, yeah, that kind of shidoche or those blocks from karate. You can block one punch, maybe two, maybe even three. What if there are more? Probability of you successfully protecting yourself from each and every one of them becomes less and less with each punch. So what we'll do is we just simply maneuver, and as we maneuver, we maintain our alignment so that we can project our energy at the opponent or at the counterpart if there's not the martial arts interaction, but for example, communication, verbal. We can basically continue the dialogue without being thrown on our back. And of course, if we maintain groundedness, likelihood of us being thrown on our backs is going to be a lot less. What other principles will also help us? Rooting. Thank you. Principle of rooting. For example, would you do me a favor and push me into my stomach again? Very nice. Yes, so the back heel was on the ground, you were rooted. So would you do it again? And just do me a favor and lift that back heel just slightly bit. Yeah, and now go ahead and push.
Yeah. I can even lift my own.
Interesting, isn't it?
Wow.
Would you do the same thing?
Oh, sure.
Great. Yeah. So go ahead and push me into my stomach and keeping the heel on the ground. Yeah, just like. Yeah, go ahead and lift this foot up in the air, and that's it. That's the testing push. Fantastic.
You said I'll take the back heel on?
Please. Yeah, but lifting this foot so you fall towards me.
That ain't gonna work.
Yeah. Notice the difference.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
There's no power. It's,
It throws you off balance, and that's why
I guess
you have no
that's-
power.
yeah.
Nothing supports it from behind.
It's gonna go around your center, yeah.
When nothing supports it from behind, or support is minimal, obviously you are more likely to push yourself away from your target than project energy at the target very well. It's something that is very important to know, because if we're not rooted, we can project energy very well. If we want to project energy, we need to find some kind of support on the opposite side. Basically, if I project energy forward, I need to have support from behind. If I project energy backwards, where do I need support? From the front. If I'm projecting energy sideways to the right, where do I need support? On the left, and vice versa. If I'm projecting energy upwards, where do I get support from? From below. Downwards, challenging, because you're not doing this and pushing into the ceiling, but the gravity does all the work for you. So basically you don't have to worry too much about it, since the gravity is going to work no matter what. So we still want to maintain some degree of rootedness even when performing downward presses, because if downward press runs into resistance, you will be thrown off balance by resistance of the target if your heel is up in the air. If the heel is on the ground, you will be supremely stable. There is a second kind of secret aspect to it, and that aspect is where on the ground the heel needs to be. Where do you think it needs to be? Right, so the center line is what projects forward from the navel. The back heel obviously is behind you, but if you draw the line from the toes of the front foot through the front heel, check if the back heel is on that line. If the back heel is on that line, and we often refer to it as the baseline, then you will have totally stable rooting. Like for example, if I push you now, you are firmly rooted with that back heel. Now if you just place that heel maybe an inch off to the side, yeah, just like that, and feel this. Interesting, isn't it? Would you do the same stance, but now, yeah, very nice. But now maybe instead of the heel being on this side of the line, maybe would you move it to the other side of the line just to humor me? Yeah, so that if you draw the line from the toes of the front foot, you go through the back to the heel, it reaches the toes of the back foot instead of the heel of the back foot. Well, let's see if this is going to work.
Awkward standing.
Good luck. I'll move the table.
Or you can catch him from behind.
Yeah, well, yeah, one of the two. Yeah.
Right.
I'll catch you.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
So the back heel serves a very important role. It's your root. Now, I often say that a lot of martial arts styles are not observing most of our principles. This is one of those principles that is almost consciously compromised in a lot of different styles. For example, in Tai Chi, they talk about placement of the feet on two parallel lines. Some teachers even use the metaphor of a train tracks. So as if, imagine one foot is on one track and another foot is on the other track. It's tremendously unstable. Because if you actually manage to push something or someone, most likely you're going to push yourself away from your target. And in many other styles, they end up lifting the back heel up in the air. In boxing especially, it's egregious 99.9% of boxers lift the back heel when they perform the cross punch. I think there is a reason why they do this. It's a pretty insidious, I would say, kind of secret reason why boxers lift their back heels. Because boxing is a spectator sport. If they kept the heel on the ground, if they punched on the center line, if they maintained the principle of stabilization at the same time, their punches would be a lot more powerful.
Much shorter fights.
The fights would be very short. Boom! Oh, he's down. Okay. If it's a spectator sport, all the spectators would be disappointed. Hey, we paid $100 more for the seat in the stadium, and now what? This fight is over in 5 seconds. No cool. So basically that's why they duke it out for a number of rounds. Because it's not about power, it's about drama. You know, it's almost like the World Wrestling Federation, or whatever they call it. Something that basically is just a spectator sport that is not a real martial art. Now, what do? We bring two of these principles together. So principle of orientation, principle of rooting. There is another principle we want to bring into alignment as well. Stabilization. What's the principle of stabilization? What is it about?
Kind of the upper alignment wise for, so if you're leaning over one way or another, you're not going to be very stable as well. So
that's what we call streamlining of the spine. This principle of stabilization is not about that, or not quite about that. Do you have any recollection what stabilization is about?
Oh, I know we talked about it. I've watched the videos, and they've drawn a bit of a blank.
Well, in order to really retain the knowledge, it's wonderful to have hands-on experience. So, would you do me a favor and push me into my stomach once again? Very nice. Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead and push. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a little bit of resistance. Yeah. Nice. Now, would you do the same thing again? And, yeah, would you put the foot down on the floor for a minute? Notice where the foot is. Is it on the center line? If the hand is on the center line and the foot is on the center line, it means the foot and the hand are going to be on the same line. Right? That's pretty simple logic. Now, it's more or less on the center line. Now you have stability. Go ahead and push. Yeah, that's the top. It's just like this. With your foot right here, with the center line aligning with the knee and toes of that leg. So the hand is about principle of orientation, or in reverse, orientation is about the hand. Stabilization is about leg that provides you stability. Which leg provides you stability? It's the weight-bearing leg. Which leg do you have more weight on? Front. So that's the weight-bearing leg. That's the leg we want to stabilize or make stronger. How do we make hands stronger?
Bring it to the center line.
Or bring center line to the
center.
Yes, or bring center line to the hand. It's relative, right? So you can bring the
Oh.
hand to the center line, but we were just talking about how the target or the opponent may be not on your center line. Instead of bringing the opponent to the center line,
Take it over here.
or putting the screw in the wall where you're facing, you actually orient yourself towards where you need the energy.
Okay, orientation.
That's orientation in relation to the hand. Now, the stabilization is about stabilizing yourself so that you don't fall over easily. And you'll have maximum stability and balance when your center line aligns with the toes of the weight-bearing foot. In other words, the weight-bearing foot is the foot that needs strength. Well, if you can strengthen your hand, if you consider that the center line is like the power line of your body, you can also strengthen your leg by bringing the leg to the center line or bringing the center line to the leg, either way.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I just test you without the hand, just test your stability right now. Your navel is where? It's over there. No, don't move. Notice how the navel is pointing this way, and the toes are pointing slightly off. No. Just leave them right here. Let's feel how it feels. Let's remember the feeling. The back heel does a really good job protecting you from falling over.
Yeah.
Could you turn your navel to align with the toes of the weight-bearing foot? Yeah. Now feel this. You feel the difference? What's the difference?
Not much difference. It's just like, wow, I can hold my own here. You know, like I feel anchored, centered.
Stable. Yes.
Stable.
Oh, wonderful. Eric, would you like to experience that?
Cool.
So, whichever foot is in front of you, let's see, where is the navel? Right here. So, don't move. Let's see, the navel is pointing just slightly off. Maybe just 5 degrees, maybe 4 degrees off in relation to the toes and knee of the weight-bearing foot. That's this. So just a few degrees actually makes a difference.
Just
Now the navel aligns with the toes. Let's test. Total radical difference, isn't it? Now, let's overdo this for a change. Just a few degrees, right?
Forget it. We'll get Earl on video when he does that.
It's hilarious, isn't it? And the more hilarious it is, the easier it is to remember. So we do this actually in this way for a very good reason, so that we remember better what works and what doesn't work. When you make things sometimes exaggerated or just simply ludicrous, you will remember that a lot better.
Yeah.
Cool. Let me ask you to test each other now. I've been doing the testing, or you've been pushing me. I want you to actually take your turns. Maybe 5 times one person, and then 5 times the other person. Experiment with the alignment of the navel with the weight-bearing foot. So, for example, if I perform a backward pull, I'm shifting the weight onto the back foot. I need stability on that leg because it becomes my weight-bearing leg. What do? I align my navel with the toes of that leg. So wherever the toes are pointing, I will turn my navel to align with the toes. That's what we do in the backward pull.
I feel like there, if you just try to remain straight and do it, and there's just nothing, like no.
That's how they do repulse the monkey in Tai Chi.
As soon as you turn, it's just like,
some
you
do
got
turn.
Whoa, got some power behind it.
Some people do turn when they repulse their monkeys. But then the question is, which is the primary movement? Obviously, it's not the hand that performs the repulsive motion. It's the backward pull that is primary movement, because that's where the movement of center mass is going.
Yeah, there's a boulder coming with this. No, play on boulder, but there's a boulder coming on this one. But this one is just here,
Swinging your arm.
Yeah.
So that's actually hilarious, because in Tai Chi there is one of the maxims, or one of the principles, using the whole body power. But that's exactly what is missing in repulsing the monkey and many other Tai Chi moves. They're not using the whole body power, they're just using the swing of the arm or motion of the limb in whatever other direction. How would you maximize the use of the whole body power? You would also use the gravity to do all the work. Meaning, all you do is just simply start shifting the weight on the leg, but keep it up in the air. So you land on the foot only after you perform the backward pull. Yeah, so backward pull and then land. If you land and then try to do the pull, you will be still resorting to using force instead of power. That's another really interesting idea, how to use force instead of power. I think Richard Dawkins wrote a book named Force versus Power.
Yeah.
He didn't teach anything like what we're doing.
Oh.
But
But he would understand it.
But he would dig the idea because we actually learn to embody this, not just talk about it, put it on the scale like he did. Most of what he did I don't particularly resonate with, but fine. And the principle is really cool. If you are doing the movement like this, it's a disjointed, compartmentalized movement. Yeah. Even if you're doing it like this, and you land just a split second too soon, already energy drains into the ground through the foot, whether you're going backwards or forward or any other direction. So that's the timing. The timing ideally would be such that you deliver impact or project energy first, before the foot lands on the floor. For example, cloud hands. A lot of Tai Chi players move in the same direction with cross steps. I definitely don't condone that. But even if they don't cross step, but they do like a crab, like this, those natural steps. If the foot lands first, and then you do the movement that we call opening, or cloud hand, opening won't have any power. You will be resorting to using this muscle of the shoulder called posterior deltoid, which is not very well developed in most people in the first place. And then you also hinging the arm around the shoulder joint, meaning it's a pretty poor body mechanics if you think about it. The posterior deltoid is pulling the bone, but the bone is relatively long. And so you have actually disadvantageous leverage. And even if you do deliver impact into the target, what part of the elbow is going to hit the target? The back of the elbow, the meaty part of the elbow where triceps.
Funny bone. It's so funny when you hit it.
You basically are not going to be happy if you actually deliver a substantial impact. So what do? We bring the elbow to the right place, and then just simply use the whole body motion to project energy in that direction. Works like a charm, and has a lot greater power and greater efficacy, because you're using whole body power, using gravity to project energy instead of physical force in the muscle, and your entire bone structure is in line. That's basically what we want to develop as a result of our training. On the basic level, we work mostly with bones. Bones represent the element of earth in the human body. The rest of the body is pretty much water, some fats, and proteins, but bones are representative of hard matter. Hard matter in the body, the skeleton, works to mitigate the effect of the other aspect of the element of earth energy, which is gravity. Instead of fighting against gravity, we really want to learn how to put gravity to good use. So if we're projecting energy, let's actually be friends with gravity. Let's use gravity to do all the work, instead of fighting against gravity, or actually fighting against gravity is something that most people do even without any energy projection. It's just simply they're misaligned, they're crooked, they are unstable, so they're fighting against gravity. What would be an example of fighting against gravity? Or we're talking about, for example, misalignment of the legs that lead to being less grounded. So if my legs, for example, are bow-legged, what does bow-legged do? It brings the weight onto the outside of the feet. Exactly. So what happens? Your legs are not really supporting you very well. When the bone structure doesn't support you well, something has to compensate for the lack of support. What would that be? Your muscles, which are never as strong as bones, and they burn energy, and then they become sore and stiff, develop energy blockages, which prevent the energy from flowing through your body or between your body and the ground. Basically, there are really few pros and a lot of cons to being tense. For example, if there is misalignment because there is more weight on one foot than the other foot, holding out? Well, when there is more weight on one leg, the pelvis obviously is going to be crooked. If you just hold your fingers by your hip bones and shift the weight onto whichever foot you want to shift weight on, notice how the weight-bearing side becomes higher. If you go to the other side, that respective side rises. If one side of the pelvis is higher than the other, it means the pelvis is not level. It's slanted slightly. And the sacrum, which is part of the pelvis, is not going to be upright. It's going to be slanted along with the rest of the pelvis. Now, sacrum is also the foundation of the spine. If the foundation is crooked, do you think the spine is going to be aligned? Oh no. The spine is going to get crooked because if you keep it aligned, you will fall over sideways. So what is the body going to do? It's going to tense up the muscles of the weight-bearing side. If the lumbar spine follows the tilt of the sacrum, the muscles will torque or twist or bend the spine in such a way that the thoracic spine, the part of the spine where the ribs go, tilts in the opposite direction, rising the opposite shoulder usually. So if there's more weight on one leg, the opposite shoulder tends to be higher. Whichever shoulder is higher, that's usually the shoulder where there's going to be more tension. Why is there more tension on the shoulder that's higher?
That's what's keeping it higher.
That, plus, notice how the lower shoulder allows the arm to just hang loose.
Relax.
That one, relaxed. That one is not so relaxed. It's kind of jacked up, and also the muscles are stretched. And we know by now that stretched muscles are not happy muscles. What happens? It's going to be tension, almost universally. There's going to be also tension in the trapezius. There's also going to be tension in the QLs on the weight-bearing side. There's going to be obviously more tension in the leg muscles of the weight-bearing leg. And the neck tilts usually towards the higher shoulder, completing the S curve. Basically, we give ourselves a little bit of scoliosis. If it becomes habituated, then the person actually can be very easily diagnosed with scoliosis, because that's how they hold themselves all the time. Even if you get them to lie down on the floor or on a massage table, they will lie crooked. And often, they don't comprehend how crooked they are. So, you ask them to lie down, they lie down like this. And you say, well, do you feel like you're lying straight? You're like, probably not. Well, can you straighten yourself up? Sure. You literally have faulty proprioception. They basically think that they're crooked in the wrong way. When they look in the mirror, they can probably get it. But most people don't really pay attention to their misalignments. And so what happens is that they often tend to stretch that part of the body that is tense. We know that it's the tense one because it's already been stretched. So they basically add insult to injury. For example, a lot of people have misalignment of the neck. Let's say they hold up or they hold down. Whichever way they hold themselves, there's going to be some tension in the neck. For example, if I hold down, obviously the weight of the head is not resting on the bone structure of the neck, the cervical spine. The weight is pretty heavy. The weight of the head is pretty substantial. What do you think it weighs?
Head?
Pardon?
Pounds?
In kilograms, pounds, whatever you do.
I should be Canadian. I should know the metric system, right?
You should.
Came in after.
Well, so to help you out, it's like the bowling ball. The heavy bowling ball is about 12, 13 pounds, or about 6 kilos. Essentially, that's the weight of the bowling ball sitting on top of the spine. The cervical spine is relatively thin, about the thickness of a finger. So what happens? If the bowling ball is not in alignment or sitting on top of the neck the structure of the cervical spine. Something has to compensate for this misalignment. See how the bowling ball sitting on top of the fingertip, out of alignment, will require a tremendous amount of effort from the finger to keep supporting it, right? Yeah, like imagine the bowling ball, you stick the finger in it, and instead of keeping it straight, tilt it. How much effort is it going to require? A lot. Well, that's what happens with the neck muscles. Obviously, neck muscles are stronger than the muscles of the finger, but it gives you an idea how much tension they have to hold.
Over a period of time.
Over a period of time, no wonder people get stuck in their heads. Because the tension in the neck literally blocks the circulation of qi, as well as blood flow and communication. So what happens is that people literally get stuck in their heads. They usually don't get stuck in their bodies. They get stuck in their noggins because they also comprehend things that they perceive through the organs of perception in their heads. By and large, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, maybe skin, tactile, but still, the rest of the body still has skin, obviously can move, kinesthesia. Those are much less developed than most people. Most people don't have kinesthesia as part of their vocabulary, so they don't pay any attention to it. So the sixth sense that we all have is kind of missing in action. Or most people don't develop that sixth sense because they don't even know they have it. We're all hardwired for perception of movement and pressure and the positioning of different parts of the body in relation to each other. Most people don't pay attention to it. Why? Monkey see, monkey do. If nobody else around us pays attention to kinesthesia, nobody is going to be thinking about it, therefore nobody is going to learn to pay attention to it. And that's how we basically rob ourselves of the first-hand experience of life. Because there is no life without movement. Now you can listen to movement, you can look at movement happening. Maybe you can even feel the movement with your skin, but these are things that are happening outside of you. It's a second-hand experience. To experience life fully, we want to experience the flow of life force within our bodies. In order to do that, we need to develop a perception and kinesthesia. So the sixth sense basically allows us to experience life firsthand instead of secondhand. Now, how profound is that? It's freaking profound because it literally transforms the experience of being alive. If the person experiences being alive firsthand, he starts experiencing their life totally differently. And that newly discovered experience of life firsthand is something that we learn to appreciate in Qi Dao, to hone it, to treasure it, and also to put it to good use. So basically, a lot of our practices are going to be dedicated to developing kinesthetic awareness and awareness of movement. And one of the things that result from that is development of different culture movement. So after a little break, we'll dive into exploration of harmonious culture movement. Before break, feel free to ask me any questions. Do you have any questions about anything that we explored so far today?
I had one, but it slipped away with all the discussion. Yeah, kind of a little question. When you're standing like this, it's easy to stay centered on kidney too. So you just divide, is it just awareness when you're like this? Do you go with the centering on the palm of the foot, the weight bearing foot?
The answer is yes.
Yeah. Don't even think about dividing that. Do you know
Well,
what I'm saying?
you will be dividing. You're not bringing 100% of the weight onto the front foot.
So whatever amount of weight, percentage of weight you got here is the percentage is centered and set that foot in.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you have 50-50 distribution. Bring 50% of the weight on one, kidney two, the other kidney two. If you have 40-60, great. 40 on
That's
center.
that matches you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, I'm not training how to be like a robot. and be like perfectly like a line here, and oh, you deviate, oh, that's bad. It's more like you want to develop a sense of benefit of alignment. So when you need it really, you quickly align yourself. When you don't need it, oh, let's not fret about it. Let's not get too dogmatic that you always have to be perfect alignment, because it's just going to drive you nuts. But when you develop that appreciation and sensitivity to how much power you have here as compared to here or here, suddenly you will be constantly noticing the feedback. I have more power here, I have less power here. What do I do about that? Oh, I can orient myself. So you basically adjust according to feedback if it makes any difference. It makes a lot of difference in most situations in life, but not 100%. So for example, if I lift a cup of tea, maybe it's slightly off my center line, it's not going to make a big difference because it's very light. For example, if I'm operating a car and the steering wheel is off center line, that's going to be tremendously dangerous and lead to car accidents all left and right, because I don't have very good control of my center line. Or even simple things like using computer mouse. A lot of people develop what they call computer mouse syndrome, where the shoulder of the arm that uses the mouse the most becomes excessively tense. Why is it tense? Exactly. Most people use the mouse way off center line. Of course, if it is done for hours during the day, 5 days a week or whatever, it's going to create a massive degree of tension in the shoulder.
That's probably why I don't like mine. Or most. I
Mine.
don't use one. You know, when I come to think about it.
So what do we do about it? We bring the mouse pad on the center line. And then we can use it also with either hand. So that each hand can do only 50% of the work. You distribute the workload between the two arms instead of giving 100% of it to one. Obviously, it will require some degree of ambidexterity, which I hope you don't mind developing, because it's a great skill to have. And you're going to be also operating at much greater degree of precision and less tension in your body. So over time, you're not going to develop mouse arm syndrome on both shoulders. Most likely, you're going to have none. Who would want to have mouse arm syndrome on one side and then switch to the other side and do the same thing and screw yourself up on the other side too? No, we basically do it so that we develop no mouse arm syndrome, because you're doing it on center line. Everything is easy when it's done on center line. Some people say, wait a moment, but how about the keyboard? That's where the keyboard is supposed to be. I say keyboard goes on the keyboard tray. Most modern desks have keyboard trays. If yours doesn't have it, invest $50, $70 into a keyboard tray that you can screw, like a aftermarket type of addition to a desk. Attach it to the desk from below. You have a keyboard down on the keyboard tray. Mouse on the mouse pad. Nice alignment. Everything is working great. Also, keyboard down here works a lot better in terms of alignment of the forearms, because you don't want to have the keyboard over here. And as you know, keyboard actually also screws your hands in a way that you develop. Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's the position of the hands that is considered the ergonomic position. If they're doing this kind of typing, it's not quite ergonomic. But most keyboards are just straight rectangles. There are some that look like boomerangs, and those are ergonomic. And also, ideally, it would be slightly slanted so that you're not holding up. It's so funny because nowadays there are keyboards that are like Wi-Fi keyboards, and they have little legs. Maybe non-Wi-Fi keyboards have legs too, I don't know. I don't use the keyboard actually. But they have legs on the wrong side of the keyboard. They tilt the keyboard towards you.
Yes.
When they actually need to tilt you away from you. That is the ergonomic positioning of the wrist, not that.
Okay, so I was understanding you. Yeah.
Yes, if you keep your hands like this all day long, you're going to develop carpal tunnel syndrome. No wonder companies invest millions of dollars nowadays into replacing non-ergonomic keyboards with ergonomic ones. But still not enough if we work for ourselves, especially we don't have a company who would give us the ergonomic keyboard, so we have to do it ourselves. And what we do is we basically learn how to pay attention to alignment of the hands, wrists, fingers, everything basically working the way that it's supposed to. It's kind of a simple idea that we integrate in our daily lives if we just simply recognize how much of our daily lives activities are stereotypical, or we take them for granted, like we don't think, is this the most effective way to do it? Getting this kind of creative mind going basically is what in Zen is referred to as the beginner's mind. But also, we all go through the stage of development when we're children. At the age of 2 or so, children ask questions. What kind of questions do they ask the most? Why? Those are great questions to actually keep asking, because most of the answers, as you discover, are not particularly sensible. And so often we discover that there are better ways to do things if we continue asking these questions and experimenting and discovering that maybe there are better ways to go. I suspect, for example, that it would be great to have some kind of keyboard where you could hold your hands this way. Anatomical position of the hands. Instead of turning the arms backwards, you could tap from below. I don't know exactly how to make it visible and how to keep the keyboard from falling on the ground. Maybe Velcro it to the bottom of the desk or something. But basically it would actually be much more ergonomic than this. I even drive a car. When I drive a car, I hold the steering wheel from below. In all driving schools, they tell their students to hold the steering wheel from above.
Yeah.
But that instantly changes the position of the arms and shoulders. If you touch my shoulder muscle, notice how it has tension. Try it. Keeping arms this way causes tension on the shoulder. Notice this. Holding the steering wheel from below requires no tension on the shoulders. Also, it changes the alignment of the whole spinal structure. If you're holding the steering wheel like this, notice what happens to my head. And most people, when you look at them, when they drive their cars, they don't even touch the headrest of the car seats with the back of their heads. Even though the headrest is supposed to do exactly that. It's where you rest your head. Just like armrests, they're supposed to be where you rest your arms.
Not just for a car accident, okay?
So, yeah. So
I understand that's why they did it, because with tension, then you're supposed to reflect that you're paying attention, because you're really tense and all that. If you're too relaxed,
also it causes road rage and stress.
Fall asleep.
Well, but you actually are much less likely to waste energy when you're relaxed. Most people, so there's some truth to that. Most people don't know how to be relaxed and awake. It's just like they develop certain stereotypes that if the body is relaxed, it means it's time to sleep. And so that's why we were talking about, we didn't talk about it yesterday, but I mentioned it some time ago, that basically people don't know what to do with themselves when they're relaxed. If they yawn, they often associate that with sleepiness or time to snooze. When actually it's just simply a natural way for a body to relax. We'll actually do some yawning exercises today. It's a lot of fun and it precipitates nice relaxation. Let's do that after we take a break.